This video and all other videos on this channel are for entertainment purposes only. The content of this video and all other videos on this channel are the opinions of the creator only and do not constitute legal, trading, investment, or financial advice of any kind. Investing carries a high level of risk and the majority of retail clients lose money. Do not invest any capital unless you understand the risks and you are prepared to lose it all. Alright, hello and welcome to Camel Finance. I'm your boy Camel, and today I've got a few tabs I want to run through, a little bit of Bitcoin stuff, a little bit of sentiment. I wanted to point something out. I had a kind of sentiment epiphany this morning, so I want to share that with you. And then we'll hop into some charts, check out some TA live trades and that kind of thing. If you're a level 3 member, I want to probably make a video or some kind of post update because I think the metals need some attention. So if you're a level 3 member, look out for that. Otherwise, let's get into today. So building on yesterday's rabbit hole that we went down pertaining to the CBDCs and the stable coins and the forced buying of treasuries, some of you guys were tagging me in posts that kind of aligned with yesterday's rabbit hole. And here is one of them, right? South Korea is apparently going to put the brakes on its digital CBDC and instead is going to pivot to bank-backed, one-pegged stable coins. So fits in with that idea that was being presented yesterday. In addition to that, the Treasury Secretary of the US is saying that the stablecoin legislation could be finalized by mid-July. So pretty wild times if you ask me. Now, speaking of July was always a date that was on the Camel Crew's radar because of the weekly cycle profiles. If this weekly cycle was going to do what a typical weekly cycle does, which is run up for about 15 weeks before then pulling back and finding the next weekly cycle low, that should give us an approximate topping time for this current weekly cycle, somewhere around mid to late July. As of today, of course, it's the 1st of July, meaning we might just be a few more weeks away from finding the top of this current weekly cycle. And then the big question becomes, can we see another weekly cycle low and another double from there? For now, I think we've got a couple more weeks of sitting back and letting the market breathe, giving it the space to run. And then it should probably be time to start thinking about nailing down some gains and focusing on getting behind the next weekly cycle, just in case there's a shot at making it to those extreme numbers. According to TechDev, this thing is just about to get started. You can see right here, looks like it's setting up for that final push to all-time highs. And we know the 4-hour Bollinger Bands haven't been this tight for many months, meaning once this thing eventually breaks out, the move should be extremely explosive, violent, and cover a lot of ground very, very quickly. That actually fits the idea of the final Elliott wave count, which is that all of this is 1 into 2, 3 into 4, and then we're going extended fifth, right? 1, 2. So this should be 3, meaning it should be big, broad participation, cover a lot of ground very quickly. Then we get 4, and then hopefully the 5th of 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 the 5th. So again, as I often say, historic compression precedes historic expansion. Bollinger Bands and volatility compressions do not indicate whether or not the price will go up and down. But based on everything else I've showed you today, my bias is still that we are going to see that move when it's unveiled be to the upside. I'm seeing lots and lots of posts looking at the current CPI and inflation. They, of course, are doing what investors and traders often do, which is zoom in on the hard right edge and take this as if it is the totality of the data. I'm seeing a lot of people talking about sticky inflation, the bottom of inflation being in, the resumption of inflation just around the corner. And again, I maintain that just like this period in here, this is nothing more than a counter trend wobble within the primary downtrend. Now, if we were to make a new high above this high from back here, then I think we can start to say, okay, Camel, maybe you're wrong. But until such time, then anything that forms below that high is indeed a lower high, and to me, should resolve to new lows. I know a lot of people have a problem with this idea. That's fine. I'm not trying to sell you on anything. I'm simply showing you how I see it. But just to let you know, I'm not the only one, right? China deflation year over year is already in place. Switzerland, SNB, already at the zero bound, and the 2-year yield is already negative. Crude oil is undoubtedly in a bear market, and if you've seen my yellow squiggle, again, it was another successful false breakout call back here, and the yellow squiggle looks something like this, okay? So we're expecting this to continue for a while, despite all the people that seem to want oil to break out for whatever reason. Not to mention, tariffs are not inflationary. I know a lot of people think they are, but mechanistically, they don't function anything like consistent back-to-back prices. There is no velocity component. It's much more akin to a one-time tax, which is again why I'm pointing at things like this and suggesting to you that this is just a short-term wobble that will ultimately resolve to the downside. Powell is fearful of the unknown, and the tail risk is not inflation, it's actually deflation. So here you have consumer price indices, percent change from a year ago, not seasonally adjusted. When we zoom zoom out and look at the totality of the data, this does not look like the resumption of inflation. It does not look like inflation is threat at all. And just before we get into the charts, I found this and I wanted to share this with you because I had an interesting, at least to me, thought process when I saw this. So I wanted to share that thought process with you now. My first knee-jerk reaction when I saw this was, oh look, there's one of those candles that led to a blow off top. I wonder if this thing could therefore repeat. My second thought here was that these are 6-month candles, meaning this bull run may have a lot longer to go if this whole dot-com bubble thing is to repeat. The next thought I naturally had was, well, how much weight can we really put on this one candlestick? Certainly, to me, is not good enough to suggest that 2 more of these are coming. And then from here, this is where my thought process got interesting. Then I started to realize that more and more people and more data sets and more analysts, including me, have been open to the idea of seeing a bull run last a little longer than most people were anticipating. We know that Bob Lucas has been talking about a scenario where we run into February or even March and April of next year before having that 4-year cycle low decline and then a big left translated cycle. My followers know that I've been talking about something similar for a long time. We know Kimazabi has done a bunch of work that kind of points towards a February top for Bitcoin. So the next thought I had here was, wow, maybe there is a little bit more legs in this bull market than most people were ready for. And then finally, it occurred to me, and this is why I wanted to share this with you today, this kind of sentiment right here, where we're approaching a top, things are starting to go parabolic, we're starting to approach the major topping zones for the major 4-year cycles. Right as we're approaching that, right as the tape is starting to go more and more vertical, we are seeing something that happens towards every major top. We are seeing people start to entertain that this bull market can go on longer. Now, to be clear, it could do, right? Anything and everything is on the table all the time. But as a contrarian, I can tell you right now, this is exactly what is expected to proliferate as we start to go more and more vertical. If the blow off top is really here, if Bitcoin really is going to start to climb in a near vertical fashion, completing that 3, 4, and 5 I was talking about earlier, then investor psychology as the tape becomes more and more bullish always starts to move the goalposts, both in terms of price. You will see people increase their price targets, and in terms of time. They will start to tell you that this bull market's got legs, it's no way near a top, it can continue for a lot longer. And so I just wondered, once I started to look at this and even caught myself lacking here to a certain degree, I caught myself saying, well, maybe there is another 12 months here. Right? But that is exactly the herd mentality. That is exactly the psychology that occurs as the tape turns greener and greener. So I think we should be on guard for that, particularly if what we do get from here is some big blow off top moves start to occur, and then you start to see more and more people entertaining higher prices and longer bull markets, especially if people start to move the goalposts from a sort of Q3, Q4 top to Bitcoin to a Q1 top to a Q2 top to there's no more 4-year cycles. That is exactly the kind of psychology that occurs in the herd mentality as we approach major tops. So I'm going to do my best to remain vigilant here, try to do my best to read the investor psychology and make sure that at the major inflection point when everyone is one-sided, that is when we're going to start to go against the herd. Remember, a lot of people get that wrong about being a contrarian, okay? A lot of people think that you want to be entirely opposite the herd for the entirety of your career, and that's absolutely not true, okay? The herd can be right for a long time in the middle. It's at the major inflection points when everyone is very one-sided and bearish that you want to be bullish. By the time we usually get to this kind of neighborhood, okay, it doesn't take a genius to look at a market climbing relentlessly, higher highs, higher lows, and say to yourself, maybe I should be bullish here. So the herd can and often is correct for a while in the middle. But again, as we approach the inflection points, the herd becomes extremely one-sided at the top. As I said a million times, but it's super important for you guys to start to look out for. You will see people talking about a bull market that's never going to end. They move the goalpost both in terms of price and time. And again, once the herd is extremely one-sided at the inflection point, that is when it pays to be a contrarian the most. And as I said, I even caught myself doing this. I was like, yeah, maybe this thing can run for many years to come. And then I was like, whoa, Camel, don't be thinking like every other investor out here, okay? We must pay attention to that psychology and we must make sure we're on the opposite side of it, the more one-sided it gets. So over in the TA and live trade section, okay, long and strong for the S&P, still relatively early in this daily cycle. We're probably only on about day 24 now, so could probably run for another week or so, maybe even 2, and then we'll start to look for a daily cycle low to get behind another position. Gold, I think, has the making of a swing low here. I think is trying its best now to confirm this is the bottom, the low is possibly in, and I just need to see a little bit more price action, and then I think we'll be able to confirm that's the case. If you're a level 3 member, if you don't hear from me, assume no changes, but if I think this bottom is well and truly in, if I think it's time to add some positions, you know, the ones I'm hunting, then of course I will make either an update in the post tab or a video. If not, if you don't hear from me today, assume no changes, and I will make a members midweek update video for you guys tomorrow. Bitcoin still chilling, isn't it? We still need to see a few more candles. We know there's unfortunately 3 scenarios we've got to deal with at the moment, and unfortunately we just need to give this a little bit more space to see what's going on. I am liking what I'm seeing from the crypto related stocks. Things like Coinbase are firing off, things like MicroStrategy even confirming a breakout as of yesterday. So once this thing can push up a little bit more, then in the member section we'll move stops up and make sure we're guaranteed to walk away with some profit from this. I'm seeing things like that Riot position start to come to fruition, even Marathon starting to tick up now. So I'm liking what I'm seeing across the board. I'm going to maintain this cautious optimism here for a while longer, and also tell that to the bond market, right? If you know, you know. So far so good. I know we had a tariff tantrum, I know we had some bond capitulation, but again, if you know, you know, right? Tell that to the flipping bond market. I'm your boy Camel. I hope you're doing well in life, and until next time, take it from me. All the best. Cheers. Bye.
Camel Finance, he's the man to see. Rocking the markets with his contrarian spree. Trades like a pro, no fear, no shame. Sticking to his guns in his money game. He's a